I don't really want to tell this story, but I'm a man of research, and a proper narrative, in this case a very amusing one, often does well on YouTube. So I'm going to tell you about the first campaign I've ever DM'd and how I completely blew it. And it started real simple. I was introduced to D&D in high school, and I wanted to set up a weekly game. At this point, I'd run maybe twice for immediate family, who were entertained but not going to engage with a full campaign, of course, because time. I'd purchased a handful of other systems to read because I do like reading systems. They're all interesting. There's some very good ones. And Marvel movies at the time were still pretty good, and there was a decent amount of superhero hype, so everyone knew what a superhero was, and it was in their heads. So I selected, among the systems I owned, Mutants and Masterminds, because I could distribute the PDF to my friends pretty easily, and I'd purchased a module I could run because surely a professionally made module would be better than me writing my own campaign. Now here is a piece of advice: never run an official Mutants and Masterminds module, because it turns out they are incredibly poorly written, something I was not yet prepared to deal with. So we open up this city known for its lack of superpowers. So few powers like villains or heroes were present in this city that it actually had recently declared no vigilantes, no Spider-Man, no one that isn't signed with the government. This is because the city is a vacation town where supervillains just agreed not to do anything so that they could chill out without superheroes interfering. Then a storm of nanites or some other variety of small bullcrap dust showed up, and everyone in the area gets superpowers and begin to go on a rampage. So our protagonist just happened to be there at the time to put a stop to the rampaging people. And I now need to introduce to you a very specific player. He was a giant mass of metal possessed by a ghost and took the power to increase his size. So he grows to about the size of a building and starts carrying people to safety. I start to describe his giant, slow steps. And that is when I stepped on a bag of cookies that a teacher had recently been kind enough to gift to the group because, hey, it's D&D, let's let the high schoolers have fun. This one instance went on to ruin the entire campaign. See, we joke that he tripped and killed the Cookie Man. I roll with that, we're all rolling with that, it's canon. A few other details exist on the Cookie Man that developed throughout the session as we're joking. His name was Bob, he had a daughter, hang on to that information, and he is dead. The Cookie Man is no more. I wasted a cookie for this video. So the campaign continues, and I realize that the narrative that was written has no flow at all. Let me give you an example. The bus that had the superpower nanites that crashed and gave everyone superpowers, right? It was connected to this rich guy who, according to some old news articles, used to be a supervillain, and he helped out in a world-ending situation in exchange for a pardon and an agreement to stop doing crime. The party goes to investigate, and the Justice League, the Super Pals, show up, also investigating. The hero squad decides you must be goons of the man and attacks you. After the matter resolves, which the module is very generous in assuming that the players aren't willing to kill the attackers, the rich supervillain steps out and reveals that he is still fully reformed and intends to fund you guys as a superhero team, becoming your patron. Additionally, he has no clue where the nanites came from, which is the truth, and the next few sessions are just you guys stopping generic bad guys. I know, that's exactly where any reasonable person thought the plot was going. It gets worse because the game is open-ended in character creation, and the party already had a rich guy that could fund the team. So okay, it's a little rough, but that's fine. We have a team, they're gonna start doing stuff. I read the next part of the module. I did not read the entire module at the start. That was a mistake. I also talked to some players, and we got them to flesh out the backstories a little. It's still pretty high joke campaign. Remember, I'm the only person actually invested in RPGs. So one of them decides he is going to be friends with the Cookie Man because that's funny, and the game's 90% jokes. So as they're setting up to stop villains that have nothing to do with the rest of the plot line, I decide I'm gonna overlay it with personalized villains because this module's lame. So the daughter of the Cookie Man appears and has been preparing for the defeat of this creature that tripped and killed her father. So she arranged a fake bank robbery to lure the party for revenge. I gave her minions that were animated blocks of cookie dough. These minions had a few traits that need to be kept in mind. 1, they can regenerate from attacks. 2, they can jump in the way of attacks targeting the leader. It was called interpose in the system. It basically means I tried to punch the leader, boom, it takes the blow. And 3, if you hit them with fire or radiation, they lose the first 2 traits because they cook the cookie dough and they start losing their form. You might think sounds like a tough encounter, but don't worry, I knew the party had 2 people who already had fire. 1 person who can shapeshift into something that produces flames after they discover the problem, and the shapeshifter and the metal guy had AoE attacks which can't be interposed. And they all had a high enough speed that they could run away from the cookie monsters if it really failed. So it seemed like a pretty good encounter, which is why it became a shame one of the fire users couldn't make it to the session. Then the other fire user had added friend of Cookie Man to his backstory and went for the immediate backstab with no hesitation. And then the last guy didn't think about his shape-shifting, and no one thought about their AoEs. Yeah, real inconvenient. But we aren't even done because time was running out because we have a limited amount of time we can do the session. So I make the very intelligence and balanced DM call of the police show up and arrest the cookie character and the betrayer. So I'm thinking I'll just give him a new character and we keep going when I decide to read the module's contents for the next session, because I'm still sort of trying to follow the module. The next session was a prison break. So that session, everything really jumped the shark, and I just declare, okay, we're dissolving this game. You know, it got way too out of hand. We should just play something different next week. And then the next week came, and certain disease started getting stuff closed, and I never got another game with that group together again.